Before you buy land to develop in Northeast Georgia, there's a few things that you have to understand first. And skipping these is the fastest way to lose time, money, and momentum. So I'm actually standing here in an active development right here in the beautiful Northeast Georgia mountains. And if you're even considering getting into land development, you're gonna wanna stay till the end of this video because I have some really key details that you're not gonna wanna miss. Land development in Northeast Georgia is very hyper-local, and what I mean by that is every single municipality, whether it be a county or a city, has their own rules around zoning and land use. So you're gonna really wanna pay attention to whatever area you're looking to develop in, what those zoning and land use laws look like. To take this idea a step further, you can actually be within the same county and play by different rules. And really what I mean by that is if you're in the city limits of a certain area, like for example, if you're in the city limits of Clarkesville, you actually have different rules and guidelines to follow compared to if you're just out in unincorporated county areas. So those are really key details to pay attention to. Is the property in the actual city limits or is it just in the county? Because you're going to be looking at two different rules to abide by. Guys, you could technically have two different parcels right next door to one another, and they actually follow two different rules because maybe one's inside city limits and one's outside city limits, or for example, one is zoned residential R1 and another one is zoned highway business. So you really want to pay attention to what each property is zoned for. So online advice actually kind of breaks down whenever you really look at it from this perspective, because some of these things you actually can't figure out online, whether it be the county or city websites. Sometimes they just don't have a zoning map or the necessary info you need to make those decisions, which requires you to pick up the phone and call the county or city. And if you can't get a hold of them, a lot of times it takes actually going in person to talk face to face with the individuals that are in charge of these decisions. Most mistakes with land development aren't actually made during development. It's made before the property is even purchased or right, during the contract period or just after being purchased. It is people making assumptions that the land can be used in one way and then finding out later that it can't, or that there's, certain issues with the property to where they can't use it quite the way that they wanted to when they first bought it. So you're gonna really, really, really wanna pay attention to what can you do and what can you not do, because that's ultimately all that matters in land development. Every city and county has what's called a land development plan, and this is essentially the land developer's Bible when it comes to what you can and can't do in that area. You're going to want to follow that to a T because that ultimately outlines all of the rules for that specific municipality you're looking in. So the LDP actually outlines zoning intent and density. Intent's pretty obvious, but the density, that's actually how many units, for example, and if we're talking residential, how many units you can fit onto 1 acre. That actually varies whether it's R1, R2, or R3. And there's some caveats to that. For example, if you have to be on septic, you're gonna get a much lower density than if you can actually tap into sewer that's provided nearby. Typically sewer allows you to have a higher density, maybe as much as 10 or more per acre, 10 units. The LDP will also outline infrastructure requirements, road standards, and utility expectations from that local municipality. So as you can clearly see, zoning maps just simply are not enough. You're gonna need a lot more context to make sense of whether a property is a go for whatever development project you have in mind, or whether you're gonna have to go back to the drawing board. There's just simply not enough information given on a zoning map. And let me remind you, some of these municipalities don't even have a zoning map on their websites or anywhere accessible online. So you're gonna have to really shake a lot of hands and get to know the people in the local government because ultimately those are your allies when it comes to land development, especially in this region. So in land development, the right team actually matters more than the dirt itself. And what I mean by that is this really is a team sport. It's not, it's not a game of tennis or a solo, like golf. This is definitely a team sport where you're gonna wanna get the right team behind you right off the rip so you know exactly what you're looking at. The first piece of advice and the first person you'd probably wanna look at talking to is a real estate agent. They're gonna be the ones to be able to walk you through where some opportunities might be in the market today. And then also, after a development is done, hopefully to the way that you see it going, what would be, what could you get out of that property on the back end? Once, for example, this property we're looking at was bought as, 3 parcels as one together sale, one seller, one buyer. And the buyer actually went and subdivided. They have 58 single family home sites, and they are going to be looking to sell each lot individually. So really my job is to look at, okay, what's this property worth as it is together? And then if we get this property annexed into the city limits like we did and rezoned to the proper zoning to where you could get actually up to 10 units per acre versus just 1 unit per acre like it was previously, what is the overall expectation as far as what you could sell each lot for, and how long might that take to recoup your investment back? So you're going to want to start there. And like I said, I'm a realtor in Northeast Georgia with Century 21 Community Realty. So if you're looking to get into land development, love to have a conversation with you. Second person you're going to want to talk with is a surveyor. They're going to be the ones to, look at the entire property and mark the lines and get a topographical map to understand, where the community drainage might have to go and where the best spot for each home site might be. And you're really going to want that surveyor to have a development background. You don't just want any surveyor for this. You're going to really want someone that has a vision for the development you have. The third in line is going to be the general contractor and or the civil engineer. They're the ones that will, ultimately be behind the scenes. Once you start disturbing the dirt and moving land, they're going to be the ones that are really putting the streets in, putting the sewer lines in, getting the underground utilities like you can see behind me, and just getting each lot prepped to be sold. They're basically turning raw land that used to be woods into a future neighborhood for homeowners in the area. Also, getting to know the people in local government and talking and just getting a feel of what the local area needs. For example, citizens, you can get on local Facebook groups. They'll usually voice their opinions as far as what they feel like the community needs. Also going to city council meetings and showing your face there and getting to know what that area actually needs. That's going to really help you, because if you can actually provide something that the area is desperately needing or asking for, then you're not only in a position to make a little bit of money, but you're also in a position to help that community actually take the next level up, which is, in my opinion, how land development should be done. It should be done responsibly. It should not be done from a sole perspective of making money. I don't believe in that. So please don't do that. Please actually work with that local area to improve the community. And not give it something that it ultimately isn't needed. So if you were to only take one thing away from this video, the one piece of advice that I would want to leave you with is that I strongly recommend you pick one municipality or area. Maybe you pick a county, and you really stick to that area. Like I said, every single municipality has their own land development plan. And if you're looking too far of a, looking at properties all over, different states or different regions within a state, it's going to be very difficult for you to sit down and understand what's a deal and what isn't. Versus if you really just hone down and say, hey, this is the area that I'm going to buy something and develop in, and you start to really research and understand that LDP, then that's going to put you in a position to spot an opportunity where others might not. I think the more that you can understand whatever area you're trying to invest in and develop in, the more that you can understand the LDP, the more leverage you're going to have, and the better chance and opportunity you're going to have to see something in a property that others just simply might not. So if you're serious about land development in the Northeast Georgia area, the most important things to understand are the local rules, the local people, and the local processes. I'll be sharing more insights like this on land development and other key topics of Northeast Georgia real estate on my YouTube channel in the future. I do have some upcoming projects and things that I will be representing sellers on. And I would love to talk more about that in future videos. So if you guys like this kind of content and you want to see more like this, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can stay updated on what's going on in the Northeast Georgia real estate area. Thank you so much and have a great day, guys.